Hey guys, so I thought I'd do a little update on my video about solving the problem I was having with the MTH locomotive, and also introduce this locomotive that I got. It's an Athearn Genesis ST78 in the Western Pacific Heritage Scheme. Picked it up on eBay, but I thought I'd do this video to compare the two and also follow up the problem that I was having with the MTH locomotive. So the problem I was having is that the locomotive would basically, you turn the throttle on and it would, all the sounds would work, it would just go, and then it would stop all on its own, and it would just act like you throttled down. And MTH told me to do a 555555 reset on it, which I did. And then I also watched a couple YouTube videos and found out how to do four-digit addressing, which you can see right here on my Zephyr. We have the 4-digit address. You can hear that it works. But the problem that I was having, and a couple other people brought this up, especially on Facebook, is that for some reason the programming, even though it takes in the locomotive, it doesn't save. And I actually contacted MTH about this, and they said that the problem with it is that there's supercapacitors that are like little batteries on the decoder that help the decoder to save the information that's being programmed into it. So when you take it off the track and it loses power, it saves things like the locomotive number or the volume settings or whatever speed curve that you've set on it. So somebody wants to run a train here. Do you want to run a train? Alright, so without further ado, let's run the MTH, and I'll show you some of the pros that I have found out by getting this engine. And before we actually run it, I'd like to point out that the MTH is a lot more durable feeling of an engine than the Athearn. I know a lot of people complained about the handrails. You can see right there like the difference in the thickness of the handrails. The Athearn one probably is more realistic in the size, but like when you pick the MTH locomotive up, it doesn't feel like something's gonna break. So let's give this MTH a run. And alright guys, so you can see a nice overhead view of my layout from this angle here, and you can see how this train really wraps around. It's only a 16-car train, but it just kind of really has the illusion of being really long, because on basically a 4x8 style layout, which is actually 5x8 on this layout, it like literally wraps around. And you can see that if this was a regular loop, this train would literally be chasing its tail. But the one thing that I want to point out is that this engine pulls 16-car train. Some of these cars are pretty heavy, others are light. And it goes down. Right now it's going down a 3% grade. And then on this inside loop right here, it's going up a 3% grade. It never wavers, never changes speed. It acts like it doesn't even notice that the grade is there. That's really awesome. Never slips anything. The only thing that I don't like about it is that the sound doesn't really notch up as the locomotive requires more power to climb the grade, because it has kind of a speedometer on it built into the decoder that helps the engine maintain that nice speed, and it just keeps that same sound. And the notches are actually, they correspond to the speed steps and not to where the locomotive would require more power, which would be more realistic in this case. The cars I have on here are all pretty new. Some of them are more high quality than others. I have a couple of in the front there, Atlas Train Man, and I think I have a Athearn ready to roll boxcar, Atlas. Well, one of those boxcars is a regular Atlas Silver, and the gondola is a Atlas Train Man. I have Atlas Masterline articulated auto racks, Walther's RD4 6-pack of hoppers, Athearn ready to roll 48-foot well car, and Atlas Atlas covered hopper, Train Man covered hopper. But all these are all free rolling metal wheel sets, KD couplers or the like, and this engine just pulls them like as it's not there. And I have confidence that I could probably put another maybe 4 cars on this train, maybe even more than that, and this engine would still continue like this, going around the track. So that's what I really like about this engine. It's just that the pulling power is pretty unmatched, and a lot of other people have said the same thing about these engines, MTH engines. But then again, like I said, I don't like the fact that the sound doesn't notch. I like the bass of the speaker, I guess, but I don't like the way that the sound doesn't really notch up. So now we have the 1983 on the track. It's still on the Locomotive address of 3. I haven't programmed anything on this engine at all yet, and I haven't programmed momentum or volume, so it is a little bit louder. Let's go ahead and back up and get the train. And as you can hear, this locomotive does have a short horn. I like the sound of this engine better, but there's something I like about the sound of the MTH better as well. I think it might be the speaker. This locomotive just sounds like really tinny, and it just sounds really tinny to me. Like it's like as if it's running almost like a toy locomotive running on a piece of metal or something, piece of tin plate track. But the actual sounds I like better, even though I like the way the MTH sounds better. Now let's go ahead and back this up. Let's get rid of that bell, it's like really loud. I also really love the horn on this one, a lot better than the MTH. And one thing you can notice already is that this locomotive actually notches up. Which one thing I really like about the sound of the Tsunami decoder is that the way that the sound is synchronized with the speed is just a lot better. Seriously, I think I would have thought that MTH would have figured this out already. I don't know if they have in their more recent locomotives like the ES44s and the Dash 9s, but I guess it might be because they're coming from an O-scale background that they chose to do it that way and focus more on like the consistency of the running than the realism of the synchronization of the sounds and stuff like that. So that's pretty much how you have it on that. One thing I will say is that the Athearn locomotive is a lot lighter. So, and I'm not doing this comparison as a review. This is just something that I'm doing because I'm learning DCC, and I'm trying to learn about the different locomotives that are available out there. I realized that all these engines are actually not in production anymore. This engine's not in production anymore. Neither is I don't think the Athearn is in production anymore. But I have the Athearn still going around. Let's go ahead and speed it up here. Alright, so we'll notice is the Athearn is actually stalled out. And that sound that you hear is not the motor, it's actually the wheels just spinning on the track. So you can see the train, my camera will focus, 16 car train. It only loops a little bit more than halfway around the only loops a little bit more than halfway around the layout. But we're gonna take a break real quick, and I'm gonna take some of the cars off and show you how much the Athearn will actually pull. Alright, so we're back again. I had to take 5 of the RD4 hopper cars off. I guess I could have picked different cars to take off, but those are just the ones I chose to take off. They're not even very heavy cars. They're very light, so that's why I chose those, just to show like how many cars you'd have to actually take off. Maybe if I would have taken off one of the articulated auto racks, that might have had the same effect, but some people like to run auto racks too. But that puts us down to 11 cars, and as this engine's going up the grade, we're going to see what it does. So as you can see, this engine is coming really close to stalling out on this grade. It actually did start the train on the grade, so I can say that it will pull the train up the grade. It's not getting a run or anything like that, but I started the train with the engine on the grade right here, and it started that whole train. So so a lot of things I'm happy with both locomotives, and there's a couple things I'm disappointed with. The weight on the Athearn is extremely light. In fact, my Athearn Ready to Roll Veterans unit is a heavier locomotive than this SD78. So I don't understand how you could make a large freight locomotive and not give it some significant weight. But I don't have that many locomotives, so looks like we got a car off the track here. These Walthers hoppers have proven to be the troublesome freight cars. It's got a really nice sound, the way it like really notches up as it climbs the grade. And I did notice there is some motor noise. Don't really like that much, but I guess that's life. Alright, so just for shits and giggles, I decided to put DC power on the track. Same freight car, derailed again. And put my Athearn Ready to Roll Veterans unit on the same train. Passenger locomotive. And it doesn't slip at all. Same 11 car train, doesn't slip at all. It bogs down a lot because the motor's drawing a lot more amperage as it climbs the 3% grade, and it speeds up really fast. It's really obvious this engine was designed to be pretty smooth at speed. Same hopper car keeps derailing. I think part of the problem with these is they're light, the trucks aren't adjusted right, the couplers are not adjusted right out of the box, and when that engine speeds up and slows down like that, it just can't take the extending and compressing pressure on it to stay coupled or stay on the track. So here, just another shot to show just a comparison of how much train really is here. I switched out the RD4 hopper for a flat car that I put on the end of the train, and I put my Walther's Proto 2000 SD9 on this train. It pulls the train even better than the Veterans unit does. Doesn't speed up as much going down the hill and doesn't slow down as much going up the hill. But you would think, and it doesn't slip at all either, you would think that a smaller locomotive like this locomotive is only a few scale feet shorter than a Jeep, would not be able to pull the same train the larger locomotive would. So I think I'm going to have to add some weight to that Athearn ST70 Ace. Alright guys, so just some final thoughts on the MTH locomotive. I like the Athearn's sounds a lot more than the MTH locomotives, and obviously it has the problem of the superconductor being bad, so it won't save any of the settings, but I have a couple different options that I can choose from. I'm just wondering what I should do. So I can pay the $12 and keep the Protosound 3, which is pretty nice. I like it. It's just not as realistic as the Tsunami. Or option 2 is just keep programming it every time I want to run it until I get the money to put some lock sound and try to convert this over to lock sound. I don't know how complicated that would be, especially since this was a sound from factory Locomotive. It might be pretty complicated because it probably doesn't have any kind of an 8-pin connector or anything. I would assume that the Protosound 3 is probably hardwired in. I would, just from watching videos, I'm thinking that the lock sound is probably my, just on videos. I haven't actually experienced it myself because I'm still, learning and upgrading and buying engines and upgrading and building track and all that stuff. But I have to say that I'm pretty impressed with lock sound just from some of the videos I've seen. So, and they have a pretty impressive sound file that you can listen to on their website. ESU, I think it's ESU Lock Sound USA or something like that. For the SD70 Ace, and they also have the SD80 and SD90 sound files. But that's an option that's up in the air, as well as the idea of putting the supercapacitor chip back in it, or a new supercapacitor chip. Especially since it's only $12. I have to say that if you're thinking about buying an MTH locomotive, that the quality is definitely pretty high. Detail-wise, there is very detailed, and from watching other videos, some of their even later releases are even more detailed. But the Protosound 3 is one of those things where I feel like you shouldn't buy a used locomotive like I did as your first locomotive. I feel like you should probably shoot for a brand new locomotive. That way you can learn from the ground up, from address 3, programming in the 4-digit address, and you know, learning how to consist without having to constantly take the other locomotives off the track, so you can reset it to factory settings. But those are just my two options now. Let me know if you have any ideas in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.